Ladies and gentlemen, it happened again. Welcome back to the Tata Steel Chess Tournament 2024. This is the round number 6 recap. We're at the halfway point of the 13-round festival. We've got some of the biggest chess names in the world competing, yet we also have some of the biggest chess names in the world not competing, and yet here you are tuning in for these recaps, which is a good thing. And I will lead you through all of these incredible games and storylines. It happened again. I've got amazing games for you today. Then I will give you the standings update. I hope you all have a great Friday. And if you're watching this not on a Friday, I hope you just have a great day regardless. We're kicking things off in the Challengers section today. Then we will go to Hans Niemann second. Then we've got Alireza Firouzja third. We have got an amazing lineup of games today. Here we go. Eline Roebers, as I think you have all told me at this point is how to say her name, yesterday defeated Hans Niemann. She went 0-4 to start the event and then beat a 2700. Mustafa Yilmaz from Turkey starts with knight f3. And as early as the 5th move, it is clear what we are doing. We are playing a King's Indian defense main line. Black will now choose the setup, e5, castles, and now Elina, instead of playing knight c6 or knight bd7 or any main line, plays b6, which is a move that I have never seen in my life. Literally have never seen anybody play like this, because normally the bishop doesn't really go out. Like, it supports an advancement, or if it does go out, it goes out here. You trade, you drop the knight back, b6. White plays rook e1. He spends 17 minutes after b6. So she really gets this man spooked. She plays rook to e1, because the thing is, you don't know with white if you want to keep the tension and how to keep the tension. You could commit the pawn to d5, right? So now rook e1, knight c6, clearly provoking this move, which is what happens. And now white plays the principled way, which is b4, right? Like, that's what you're supposed to do in the King's Indian. You're supposed to take space on the queen side. What black is supposed to do is put these knights back and launch a counteroffensive, but she strikes back on the queen side. Now that's weird. And the thing is, for white, if you lock the queen side, if you don't have any more forward mobility, black will go here and you're dead. Like, black will then go h6, and then black will go f5 and you will die. Black's attack will destroy you if you can't strike back on the queen side. So he takes, she brings the rook out, and now he starts kind of adding more pressure to that queen side, right? He's trying to expand, play knight b3, put pressure. Elina plays f5. She's still in her prep. She's up 30 minutes on the clock. Take, the knight comes out. The knight's got backup. The knights are swarming in. It's a very back and forth game. Rook a3. A useful move potentially, and she's also, he's also looking to go to that side of the board. Knight h4. Elina just lining him up. Look at this. Look at this, all on the king side. Bishop d7 targets the pawn. He now has to liquidate. She plays queen e8. Now Mustafa takes over. He's got a really strong initiative after c5. She really should not have allowed it. Now the position's quickly disintegrating. She takes on e4, rook e4, but he's got a great position. Will this pawn sneak through? The sides are now getting lower on time as well, right? 13 minutes to make 13 moves. CD, very, very, very complicated position. Black has 4 pawns. White has 4 pawns. But black wins the pawn on d5. Now, there are tons of open lines over there. Tons of open lines to the black king. He moves his king out of the center. She now centralizes her queen and has a major advantage. King slides out of the way as well. Both kings have been tucked away because the sides are about to go to battle. He takes on d6. She takes back. That was an inaccuracy. Now rook d1 is going to win the knight back. She blocks, though, and white is down a piece. White is just down a piece right now. He got 2 bishops versus bishop, knight, knight. The best move in this position is queen d3. That is a crazy move. And the point after queen d3 is that if you trade, the bishop hangs, the knight hangs, and that's that. But instead of that, with about 5 minutes on the clock, Mustafa plays bishop d3. And now e4. And suddenly the white position is falling apart. He's got 2 minutes to make 4 moves and not lose on time. Queen f2, threatening mate. The rook stops it. Rook unpins itself. Oh my goodness. The knight can be taken 2 ways, but rook e1 is mate. Queen c3, h3. But now knight e8, and black escapes. She's escaped the skirmish with an extra knight. And now it's just a matter of, can she win this endgame? Now, if Stockfish played this endgame with white, maybe it's a draw, because 2 knights cannot beat a lone king. It's impossible. So knowing that, all white needs to do is get rid of those 2 pawns and not lose a huge amount of material doing it. What black needs to do is bring the right pieces up the board. If you trade the rooks right now, if, for example, in this position you played rook, I don't know, I'm just going to say knight c7, rook a6, it's a draw. You cannot win this position because I will trade off my pawns. So black cannot trade the rooks, but does black have enough firepower? She's gonna do her damn best. We are now deep into the 50s. 1 pawn has been traded. This is the final remaining pawn. All Mustafa has to do is trade the rooks and sack the bishop for the pawn, and it's a draw. But she's not gonna let that happen. She's not trading the rooks. She's targeting him. She's swarming him with the knights. But how is he's gonna defend himself? Surely. We have now crossed 60 moves. Here comes the black king. Uh-oh. The pawn might be lost, but you can't take it because I'm going to mate you. Bishop d4, king d4, 1 pawn remains. This pawn wins the game for Elina, and if it is uncapturable, then she's going to win. But if he takes it, it's going to be a draw. She blocks with knight d5. We've now crossed 70 moves. He's just not fast enough. But while she's playing defense, how is she possibly going to win, right? Rook e5, king e3. Is she winning or is it a draw? She makes it to f1. Apparently in this position, he had to go rook a4. And if king f1, he sacks the rook. And it's a draw. It's a draw because the pawns are too fast. The pawns go, and this king it just can't get back in time. g6, rook a8, king f5, you lose the pawn, but this pawn makes it. Rook a4 might have been the final moment, but he doesn't play it. He plays here. She sneaks in, and now rook e1 trades the rook, but the pawn will survive. And she wins the endgame after 70 moves, 80 moves. And Elina Roebers just defeats a 2692 and a 2665 GM back to back. Blow the guns out, put him back in the holster. She just went from 0-4 to 2 out of 6. She's on a 2-game winning streak against an average elo of 2680. Monster victories for her. And both with the black pieces. No. Yesterday she won with white. She played e4 Hans. Okay, I take that back. I got too hyped. Doesn't matter. She beat a 2665 and 2692. And you didn't. So, you know. And I got more games for you. It happened again. By the way, neither did I. Just, I'm included in that group. Hans Niemann looking to bounce back from the game against Elina versus Marc-Andre Maurizzi, who yesterday put a man in the hospital. Okay? Like, they had an ambulance waiting outside of the playing hall for Jaime Santos from Spain. This one, an e4, e5, an Italian. Hans looking for redemption. Marc-Andre looking for momentum. What the d5? If you look in the database, this is such a rare move. Black always plays bishop c5, bishop e7, black develops, and only then does black go here, and frequently black doesn't even do that. Black plays like d6. d5 is such a committal move. You have to be prepared so much to play like this, and it looks like a simple exchange, but the meta of it is that white now gets a lot of pressure on the black position. Hans castles, bishop e7, f6 now. Now you'll notice Hans spent 4 minutes. That means that he didn't quite remember all the notes. f6, but now white can open up the center with d4. This looks completely deranged to play chess like this. Knight b6, targeting the bishop. Now you could play bishop b5 or bishop b3. Hans goes here, all right? He spends considerable amount of time. He spends 10 minutes calculating this and then commits to this, and black just castles. Now, you might calculate this and go, wait a minute, take, that's a free pawn. You're right. Absolutely right. Take. Not only is it a free pawn, I could give you 2. But what about all these pieces? Like, you can't win a chess game with 1 horse. Your horse can't just walk around and you expect to win. You're not an equestrian, okay? You can't just hop around on a horse. Black will go bishop b7, and then c5, and knight a4, and very quickly you will realize you cannot touch your queenside. Like anything you touch. You play b3, you hang a rook. It won't happen in Tara Steel, but it will happen in most other games. So instead of that, Hans thinks and plays h3. Marc-Andre, rook e8. First move out of prep, rook e8. DE, queen D1. I think at this point, Hans spends 12 minutes and goes, I don't feel comfortable keeping the tension because I'm in my opponent's wheelhouse. If I try to keep the tension here and I don't take, he could keep the tension anyway. And then he could just develop all his pieces. It's actually very tough to play with white. Very tough. Not easy. So Hans says, you know what? DE. All right? We'll trade the queens. We'll do this. I'll take. What's the worst that can happen? All right? I'm not going to take the second pawn because Levy just showed in his recap in the future it's too dangerous. Knight D3. Hans down 35 minutes on the clock. We don't see this very often. We don't see Hans out-prepped and down 35 minutes on the clock. He's usually out-prepping and up 35 minutes on the clock. And he's usually not on the defensive like this. We saw a game he had to play against Valakitin. I showed that game a couple of months ago. It was a Berlin. It was a weird defensive game. And it's like not his style. I mean, look at this position. Black is a pawn down, but if you ever talk about compensation, one dude has 4 pieces just completely on the back rank. And his best move is this. All right, his best move is like to play a random flank move. Knight C4. The pressure is building. If white plays in a stable way, he'll probably make a draw. So he plays Knight D2, and Marc-Andre just takes the knight. That might have not been the best transition. He spent 20 minutes on Knight C4. Knight D2. He takes, and now all of a sudden Hans is better, right? Hans is better, but I think Marc-Andre just said, you know what? Let me just get my pawn back. Very simple. I'll get my pawn back. I can't lose. Yeah, I can't lose. Rook B1. Bishop D4. Now, if anybody's better, it's Hans. So clearly the prep paid off, but somehow he sat there and went, maybe I don't know how to handle the position after the prep, which is life. Yeah, sometimes that happens. Like maybe Black had to go A5 or Knight D5. And the way he played it, Hans was able to develop and trade. You don't want to give your opponent a chance to develop and trade when you're down a pawn and your only compensation is a lack of development by your opponent. So now Hans plays King F1, F3, and now Hans is going to go to work. He was worse the whole opening. Now's his time. Rook B7. The position is basically playing itself. He grabs the pawn on A7. Marc-Andre strikes with C4. The bishop attacks the rook. Hans moves it, loses the pawn, but he's got the A pawn, so he pushes it. Black plays Rook E7. Hans offers a rook trade. Black says no. Hans plays Rook B3. He's trying to win that pawn. He's got past A pawn. Very pleasant endgame. Bishop A7, Rook B7. Maybe we'll have a repetition. No, it's Hans Niemann. He doesn't make pity draws. King F7, Rook B3, but now Black plays C5. What is going on? I thought Hans had the position under good control, but suddenly the guy's gonna have 2 passed pawns. Uh-oh. Take, Rook B7, Black's defending. So Black's defending and attacking, and the king is ready to join the party. Hans takes. He plays a move with 30 seconds on the clock. It's a losing move. Apparently, he had to play bishop to freaking C3. The idea of which is if you take the bishop off A7, I take A7, and you lose. Because D2, King E2, and you can't stop my pawn. So bishop C3 deflects the bishop, and then you bring the king. That was apparently the way. The way Hans does it this way, he traded too quickly. He traded the rooks too quickly, and he wins a pawn, but Black's king is too fast, and I got news for you. The bishop endgame is completely lost. So Hans starts running his pawns, but it's not fast enough. Bishop goes back to C5, bishop D2, and Marc-Andre Maurizzi, out of nowhere, wins this game against Hans Niemann. Hans just can't move anything. Bishop G7, and he resigns. He would have to lose all his pawns, get his king out of the way, King C2. That is absolutely insane. Hans Niemann just lost 2 games in a row. For the first time, I mean, I don't think he's lost 2 games in a row in a while. And if he has, maybe World Rapid and Blitz, but I'm talking classical. That's nuts. And Marc-Andre Maurizzi just popped off. Absolutely popped off for 2 wins. That is bananas. I got more games for you. Alireza Firouzja looking for redemption. Yesterday being taken down by the women's world champion. That was a massive, historic win for her. He's playing Wei Yi. This is a matchup of the 2 biggest what-ifs in chess. Wei Yi was Alireza before Alireza was Alireza. Okay? Alireza is the new generation story of Wei Yi. Wei Yi was 2740 like 7 years ago. So the question was he the next bright star of chess? And he's always been 2740 with a very interesting, aggressive, dynamic playing style. But his journey has never quite realized maybe the potential. I mean, he's still super young and anything is possible, but these 2 guys broke the record for like youngest 2700 ever. So We play a death sentence of a variation. This position is very, very well known at top level. If Alireza takes, Wei Yi will take back on d4. So we get this, and now we have a Queen's Gambit accepted type of position. Bishop d3, and Wei Yi attacks the queen side with b5. And a couple moves later, dc, bishop c5, and black castles. This is the position after 12 moves. They've spent a lot of time to get here, but it's relatively equal. White now advances in the center, simultaneously opening up the dark squared bishop and looking for e5 to remove the knight as a defender of the king. Queen c7, trading and trying to bring the rook. Both sides have traded D and C pawns, so they don't have the D and C pawns. It's going to be very much a battle on the other open squares of the board. Take, take, queen b6. Position's a draw. It's heading for a draw. You can trade queens. Alireza plays knight d4 instead, and Wei Yi plays knight e5. Alireza moves his bishop out of the way and safeguards his center with the move f3. Unstoppable force, immovable object. You got the rooks. The knights are going to move. Everybody's going to trade. And then here, for some reason, Wei Yi just, plays h5. He spends 10 minutes and goes, you know what? My position's very good. I don't have to get in a rush. I don't have to do it. I'm going to go here. I can move a pawn, same side, and I'm going to control your dark squares. Alireza now moves as king. I mean, you talk about a gangster move with all these people. King f2 is crazy. The idea is very simple. He wants to move his knight and he wants to take back with his king. He wants his king to plug into the action. h4. Wei Yi's like, my plan's good. I'm controlling the dark squares. g5, knight h5, different ideas in the future. And Alireza realizes his plan. He's like, I'm going to bring my king in because we're going to the endgame. Now my king gets a head start. It's not clear if this is an asset or a liability for black, and I don't think Wei Yi's got an accountant on speed dial in Tata Steel. g5, he's just continuing with his plan. Alireza takes, removes the defender of the c5 square, which was an idea that was made possible with knight b3 and the king walking up. So everything he's doing is very knight c5. It all ties together. Now a4. Everything Alireza's done from literally this point all tied together. He was going to go here, king f2, knight b3, take, put the knight on c5 to put the bishop back, pressure those pawns, and then play a4, utilizing the knight that he just put on the c5 square. Alireza saw 10 moves into the future to get all of that on the board, and now he's asking some really major questions of the black position. Black's position's not very pleasant to defend. Not pleasant. The only imbalance in this position is black's overextended pawns, which are in the line of sight of white's bishop. And unlike these pawns, which are in the line of sight of black's bishop, these are a trio of pawns, and those are a duo of pawns, and there's no way to target the integrity of them. a4 is a nice way to target that pawn structure, which is what he does. Knight takes, bishop takes. Wei Yi chucks the pawn. He chucks the pawn, plays knight g6. I don't know why he didn't play rook b8. I guess just rook c5, and he thought white was fine. And now Alireza is just going to push this endgame, and if Wei Yi can defend it, God bless him, and if he can't, he's going to lose. Knight c3, king d2. Pawn's now 3 squares away from queening. How are you going to defend yourself? King d6. King walks over to b3. Alireza's game is just flowing. It's like water, all right? Look at that, king b4. Knight a4. Every move precedes the other. This structure has been intact since he played bishop e2. Look how long, this is move 37. 20 moves ago, Alireza went f3. This has not moved since then. Look, the structure and the bishop have not moved. Take, knight b5. Then he comes back. They haven't moved. The structure is just intact. The rest of the position is being played. Knight c6 check. He has to move his king again. At some point, he's going to have to move something, right? Oh, no. Rook c2. No. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. E takes f5. And in this position, Wei Yi resigned. He finally broke structure. And he resigned because after takes, he would go rook c7. The king would go to a8. And you would win by king before king c5, maybe. Just king before king c5, and you just win. b6, rook here. The only reason you cannot rush with b6 in this position, threatening rook a7 mate, is I have knight c6. I have some tricks. Maybe I can play knight d8. I can go block, but it's a completely hopeless position. And it's just incredible how, from a relatively stable position, this king move just changed the whole game, changed the trajectory of the entire game. Alireza wins again, by the way. Alireza is just destroying everybody except Ju and June. Yesterday, he wanted to win a little bit too badly, and he's doing a really nice job. Now, I got 2 more games for you. Anish Giri in the lead, and in this game, oh my goodness, the stuff that he did. He played knight f3, and then he played a ready like this, which is very rare, top level, to see stuff like this. h3, g3, trying to kick out the bishop. And now we get a Catalan-esque type of structure. Not exactly the same, but Alireza plays this very, very interesting early on idea, knight to e5. So he delays castling, and instead what he does is he firmly plants the horse in the center of the board, and combined with h3 is threatening to trap the bishop. He's threatening to go g4 and f5. Not right away. If you play g4, black will go here. If you play f5, it looks like you're winning, but it's not so easy because I have take, 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 take. So I'm going to get at least 2 pawns, and I have bishop g3. If you castle, the evaluation is still about equal. It's not as clean as you would like. But yes, you are up a piece. But that is the point. Okay, that is one of the points of playing like this, which is nuts. I mean, Anish has shown some really, really nice preparation. F4, castles. And now Parham, down about 35 minutes on the clock, says, you know what? Let's trade some pieces. I might get my bishop trapped. Anish takes with the knight. And early on in the game, just has a very, very pleasant edge. He has a bishop for a knight. Tremendous pressure on black's position. That pawn's going to die. The bishop's going to come here. He's going to play... You can't hear outside, but I can hear a really, really loud whistle for some reason. I got spooked. Bishop e3 is going to put his rooks here. Space advantage. Anish Giri is looking to win yet another game in title steal. Title steal. Tata steal. Queen d5, b3, preventing Parham's knight from moving. What an incredible position for I keep calling him Alireza, for Anish Giri. Queen e6. That hits the pawn. Anish plays king h2, and he is on pace to win. I mean, he is just crashing through. He's going to play a4. He's going to play a5. Parham's dead. He's also threatening to just take, right? Parham fights back. He's got to. Anish takes the pawn. Parham takes, starts fighting back like this, but bishop d4. But there is knight d7. Rook f2. And Parham has surrounded the e5 pawn, and it looks to have caught up in terms of equality in the position. Rook f1. Queen e3 targeting black's queenside. Black says no. b4 targeting black's queenside. Black takes on e5. Rook f8 zips in. Parham has a minute. Parham has 1 minute to survive the next 14 moves. It's move 27. Plays rook d8. Take. Anish keeps building the pressure. This is nuts. Parham has chucked a bishop, but is on the verge of winning it back. Now, the only move here to keep advantage is queen e4, giving up the bishop and threatening to take on c6. Anish gets exactly that. He's now a pawn up. Rook f2. Now, 2 minutes on the clock for Parham. The only way not to lose right now is just to go for it. Just to throw pawns forward while white has not stabilized. He does it. Anish defends. g5. Sacrificing another pawn. Now h4. The game is hanging like this. Parham is about to lose it all, and Giri's going to win again. He brings back the queen. We have rook to g8. Now Anish finds a brilliant idea. g6. The idea of g6 is that, yes, you can play hg, and after hg, queen g3, king g3, rook g6, white could try to play this endgame. He could try to play this endgame forever. But for some reason, Parham plays queen d6, applying pressure to this and this. Anish unpins himself. And his idea is to force that endgame. But in this position, with his rook hanging, Anish Giri has a winning move. And the winning move is so hard to spot. The winning move in this position is queen f6. The point of queen f6 is that you can't take because of this. And if take, my rook gets out of the way. And there is rook g6. But then I go queen h8, king b7, rook f7, king a6, queen c8, king b5, rook f5, king b4, a3! The critical move! And black's king either walks onto the a file and gets swarmed or continues walking, and then it's just a ladder mate. It's a ladder mate in the middle of a game. King here, queen here. Anything that takes on the A file, I will get you trapped in the corner. Anish misses that, and we go to an endgame, and this is actually just the draw. White is able to advance the e-pawn for a little bit, and he does, but Parham's rook is too active, and you just don't have enough pawns. Parham does a nice job here, and yes, White is actually able to queen the pawn. He is able to queen the pawn. He's, in fact, going to do it right now. He's going to go queen the pawn, but after king d7, you do queen the pawn, but we just saw this in the same thing in Hans Niemann's game. Not Hans Niemann's game. The other game, Mustafa versus Elina. There was the chance there to promote like this and run away with a pawn. Same exact thing here, and this would have been a draw. This would have been a draw in that game. In this game, it actually is a draw. And Anish Giri came so close, but a draw is agreed. He had a couple of moments, but you got to give credit to Parham, who did not go down. I got one more game for you. I've got Jordan van Foreest versus Gukesh of India. This one was a Scotch. Queen f6, a major sideline. A line that has not been seen in a million years. I mean, usually they play knight f6 and bishop c5. Queen f6, queen g6. Wow. Attacking the pawn in the center. What the... Straight up looks like a 500 is playing, by the way. There is a threat. You'd be shocked. There is a threat. The idea is kind of to go here. It doesn't quite work right now, but the point is queen g3, and there is this, but it wouldn't work in this position because apparently knight d5 and bishop f4 is like winning for white. But, you know, that's what you're looking... You're looking at all this stuff over here. And yeah, my man, Jordan van Foreest, does not need 2 invitations to a party. He goes f4, and he's ready to fight. f5. Gukesh plays bishop d6, bishop b4. He plays queen f6, queen g6. If there are children watching this, they should stop. And now he has to play queen f6 again. 3 out of his first 9 moves have been made with the queen. Horrible. 2 of his first 9 moves have been made with the bishop. Horrible. And now he makes another bishop and queen move, and he's a pawn up, but he has to go back and castle. Jordan now has more space, bishop pair, open lines of attack against Gukesh. All Gukesh has is defense. Like, Jordan is sending a reminder to him that, like, wherever you castle, I'm gonna attack you. You have no chance. So Gukesh thinks and says, okay, no castling. I'm just gonna block myself up. Queen e1. No castling. I'm not gonna commit my king. I don't know where you're gonna go, right? My king's in the center. You can't attack the center. I have a blockade. Jordan makes a waiting move. Okay, Gukesh plays a5, and then he plays knight on b4. He's still not giving any information. This is nuts. So it's really difficult for Jordan. He has to make moves that can simultaneously pressure every side. He doesn't know where Gukesh is going to commit, and don't forget, Jordan sacrificed the pawn. So this game of cat and mouse, h6, g5, creating a blockade. But now fg. It's not really a blockade. He's trying to trade the queens. He's not getting a queen trade. Instead of queen f2, he could have played queen e3. I don't know why he didn't. Jordan is very much like he plays possum. Like, he's giving up a bishop. He's like, oh no, I lost the pawn. Oh no, but now I have a big attack. But he didn't have to do that. He could have played queen e3 and not lost the pawn. Instead, he does lose a pawn, and he's still attacking Gukesh on all 3 sides of the board. Rook g8, he stops mate. Knight c5. And remember, I mean, Gukesh still can't castle. He will get absolutely rolled and smoked if he castles in this position. He's not going to castle anytime soon. E takes d6. And now on move 28, Gukesh castles queenside. And all of a sudden, it becomes clear that White's attack is not the same as Black's attack. Gukesh arrives with his rook, using Jordan's pawn as an umbrella pawn, hiding underneath it. There is no mate. It doesn't matter if Jordan takes on a5, by the way, because rook h4, somebody's attack is much more potent than the other. Rook h4, knight c5. The knight dances out that way to take, but also to redirect itself this way. And yeah, he's also got pawns on top of that. Rook e3, we zip out just to capture a pawn. Not the best move, by the way. Knight to d3 and rook f4 was much preferred by the computer to try to target g2, but that's what happens in low time, and this game just turns into absolute pandemonium. Both guys trying to mate each other. It's like a piece collage. Both guys under 10 minutes to make the most critical moves of the game. But in the shuffle, Gukesh finds a vicious haymaker. As everything looked to be defended in the white position, he finds bishop takes g2. A brutal punch that sends Jordan down to the canvas. You cannot take the king because you walk into with the king because you walk into the g file and I play queen takes rook. You cannot take with the queen because you remove the defense of this rook. So you have to go here. But I still take. Because even though you didn't accept my offering, you still walked onto the g file. And now when you take, I have this. The discovered attack, you will lose your queen. You can play knight e7, you can win my rook back. You can check me, you can win my rook back. But when it's all said and done, Gukesh emerges with not one, not two, but 3 extra pawns. And that's it. He clears out. And in this position, Jordan resigns because he's just going to have 2 pawns march down the board. And he could have played on, but he decides he wants an early dinner. Not worth fighting on in this position. And Gukesh wins. A very, 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 very fun day. We also had Max Varmerdam taking down Alexander Donchenko. And these are your standings after 6 rounds. Anish Giri leads, but it could have been a 1-point lead. Alireza Firouzja back to 4 points. Crazy because he even lost the game. And he's just clear second. Erwin Lamy, Dutch Grandmaster, a trainer and training partner of Anish Giri. The big Dutch boys up top. And half the tournament is in the books. And Eline Roebers is up with 2 points. I think it's not Roebers. I think it's Roebers. I think technically it's Roebers. Roebers. I'm going to get this name right. I promise I will. She wins again. Hans loses again. Alireza is back. Gukesh on the board with a big dub. Things are heating up. And Tata Steel, half a tournament left. You know what to do. Get out of here.